Monica Crowley worked for Donald Trump last time. Her and Mnuchin did a great job. She's a great TV host, radio host, has her own very successful podcast, and she's back on Sid and Friends in the Morning. Monica, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Sid. I'm doing great. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a great holiday.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you. We did, and I heard over the holiday from our mutual friend Krisha Lenzo, who told me that the Metropolitan Republican Club, a place I really enjoy, they're going to honor you and I, and we're both going to speak coming up December the 12th. How exciting is that?
I can't wait. I'm so thrilled. It's going to be so exciting. And what I didn't know, Sid, is that you are going to be there also, which makes it even sweeter for me.
She said, look, I know it's tough. You have a lot of parties. And she kept offering stuff. And she said, Monica Crowley's coming. I said, okay, mark me down. I'm there. So it'll be a big night. It'll be a big night coming up. So, for folks who don't follow the economy that closely, of all the things we talk about with the president, I believe that's the most in-the-weeds stuff. I really believe that most Americans have no idea other than, hey, do I get more money in my bank account? Are eggs cheaper? Otherwise, the minutia, people get very, very confused. And they keep hearing about tariffs. Donald Trump is going to tariff this country, that country, this country, and somehow that's going to lead to reduced inflation and a much better economy. Monica Crowley, can you explain that to my listeners who kind of get it, but not really?
Yes, and actually when you texted me over the weekend, Sid, you were like, can you join me on Monday morning to talk tariffs? And I was like, yes. I mean, who else gets excited to talk about tariffs, right? Look, the United States for a very long time, prior to the imposition of the federal income tax, which we all hate, but prior to that, in the early part of last century, the United States was essentially run on revenue from tariffs before we had this federal income tax. And tariffs generated so much revenue into the U.S. Treasury that there was no need for any kind of federal tax system. Then we kind of did away with that. We instituted a whole new tax structure, much more complicated, as we all know. And tariffs kind of went by the wayside with the advent of globalism and this idea that this global economy could feed into everybody's economy around the world, and we would all benefit from this kind of globalism and open and free trade, et cetera, et cetera.
What it reminds me of when you're saying that? It reminds me of the luxury tax in baseball. Let me tell you how analogous it is. So the luxury tax in baseball makes sure that every team, even the small city teams that don't pay a lot, they get revenue sharing. So teams like the Marlins, the Royals, when they're bad, they can survive. But guess who takes it up the ass? The Yankees, because they got to pay the rest of these teams. And it feels to me like that's us. We're the Yankees. We pay for everybody else to stay alive in this global economy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is a pretty apt analogy, Sid.
Thank you.
So good on you for that. Tariffs are essentially equivalent to a tax that another party pays for access to your markets. And, they did kind of go by the wayside, but back in the first presidential term, President Trump reinstituted them. He resurrected them. And what he showed, to your point, is that, no, they do not generate inflation or higher costs for the American consumer. A lot of people who oppose Trump are saying, this is going to send us into more inflation and the consumer's going to end up paying higher prices, et cetera. There may be a slight tick up in some consumer goods, but I think if you asked most Americans, if the rest of inflation comes down and prices generally stabilize and come down, would you pay a few pennies more for a product that was made here in the United States by American workers? I think the answer might be yeah. Because you're going to have a growing economy in every other way. So your economic opportunities are going to be so much stronger. Your own personal financial situation is going to be so much stronger that the idea of bringing things back to America to be manufactured, I think people might pay a few pennies more for that. But I'll tell you this, tariffs, Sid, have three main purposes. And the incoming Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, has also talked about this and believes it very strongly, which is why he turned out to be President Trump's favorite for Treasury. Number one, tariffs do generate revenue to the U.S. Treasury. So you got income coming in to pay for our massive government, which Elon and Vivek are going to slash, thank God. Number two, tariffs protect America's workers, businesses, and industries, which President Trump is all about, and I know you and I are all about. And three, tariffs serve as tremendous leverage against our trading partners and others who are working against America's interests.
See, that's where the confusion comes in, because on one hand we're talking about tariffs improving the economy, yet a lot of Americans believe that a tariff is basically put in place to punish Canada, China. So is it tariffs more about punishing your adversaries or more about making money?
Well, it's both, actually. This is the beauty of tariffs. And President Trump demonstrated that so effectively in his first term, Sid, that President Biden actually retained the vast majority of the Trump tariffs. He did not get rid of them, because here's the point, and Trump is all about the art of the deal. When Trump merely threatens tariffs, so like he threatened 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, unless and until they begin to cooperate by sealing their responsibility of our borders, north and south, guess what happened? Within hours of him posting that on Truth Social, you had a phone call from Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, saying, hey, man, we're willing to work with you. And the Mexican president stepped up and said, no more caravans going to our northern border, the U.S.'s southern border. We're going to halt all of them dead in their tracks. And then she called Trump, and then Justin Trudeau actually made a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to have this conversation. They are so petrified because here's what they know. They know Donald Trump is a strong American president who stands up for the United States and the American people. They know that he says what he means and means what he says. And if they don't haul ass, as you might say, on the border and start working with us on it, they will face massive, massive tariffs. And the United States of America has all the cards in this fight. Okay, all the cards in this fight. And with regard to China, he used tariffs very effectively against China, and he will again even more effectively this time, because the trade imbalance with China is completely out of control. So President Trump is here to say we're going to rebalance that trade partnership, number one. Number two, we're going to remake the corporate tax structure to incentivize American companies who might be manufacturing abroad in China, India, the Philippines, and elsewhere, Mexico, to onshore their businesses and their industries back to America, creating American jobs. We're going to incentivize you by paying a much lower corporate tax rate if you do that. If you don't, not only are you going to pay the higher corporate tax rate, but you're also going to face tariffs, maybe. So
right.
Now you've got American companies who are scared beyond belief about this too, who are coming home and bringing the jobs right back here. This is the success of Donald Trump, and Sid, he's not even in office yet.
This is the great Monica Crowley. You know, you mentioned Elon and Vivek and slashing trillions, and sounds great, and there is no better mind than Elon Musk. We know that. So if Elon tells you he's going to do something, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. But I'm more of a practical guy, okay? Sounds great. $2 trillion. Fantastic. How do you do it? Like, if you ask the average person on the street what Doge even does, let's be honest. They have no idea. When they hear they're going to slash $2 trillion, oh, this is great. But practical terms, how is Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy going to slash all that deficit?
Well, two things here. Number one, the American people grasp how huge, bloated, and wasteful the federal government is. For decades, we've heard stories, Sid, about how our hard-earned tax dollars are paying for studies like fish on a treadmill. right? So that's going to be part of it, right? Because the American people understand that their hard-earned money is being thrown out the window and burned on fire. They get that. So there's going to be that component to it. But the bigger component, what Vivek and Elon are going to do, is massive, radical, systematic change to our institutions and the way that they function. That is going to be huge. Now, there's a lot of built-in resistance to that, but one of the big things that President Trump can and I believe will do on day one when his hand comes off that Bible is sign an executive order, something called Schedule F, which prevents federal employees from being fired without a long, extensive process that's prolonged, et cetera. Boom, he's going to make tens of thousands of federal employees at will immediately. And then the institutional changes, like how the Pentagon operates. I'm not saying any of this is easy. You're dealing with very complex bureaucracies, but we've allowed it to get to this point, Sid. So now it's going to take people who have the political will, like President Trump, and the political strength, like President Trump, Elon, Vivek, who really don't care. I mean, they're not, President Trump is not seeking office again.
Right.
Elon and Vivek don't want any part of this. They're working on the outside of the government. But here's how it's going to work. Elon and Vivek are going to make recommendations on what to slash and how to do it. And then they are going to hand off those recommendations to Russ Vought, who is heading up the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget.
Got it.
That is the federal government office that's actually going to do the slashing. And I'm telling you, Sid, it's going to be a thing of beauty.
So Wilbur Ross on Maria's show yesterday. Jackie DeAngelis was filling in for the vacationing Maria Bartiromo, and he was very, very good. But you're great. And, you know, look, you worked there. You and Mnuchin did a great job for Donald Trump. He's announcing all these cabinet picks. We have noticed that a lot of the folks that he had last time around, good or bad, guy like David Friedman, for example, fantastic. They're not back. Does Monica Crowley want a position? Were you promised anything? Do you care? How do you feel about this new Trump administration and your potential role?
Well, first of all, it has been so amazing to see President Trump put together an absolute dream team of Avengers. And the vast majority of these people are my friends. Tulsi Gabbard, Lee Zeldin, Kristi Noem. I adore them all. I just think they are going to do an unbelievable job, capped off over the weekend by the announcement of Kash Patel as FBI director. This is why D.C., official Washington, is in a complete meltdown and panic because the hunters are about to become the hunted, and they know it. You know what? I was very honored. I mean, it really was the honor of my life to serve in the first Trump administration. And I have to tell you, if President Trump decides that I can be helpful in some way in his second administration, I would be even more honored to do that.
Fair enough, but there's been no conversation yet, right?
Well, I'm not going to tip my hand to the process.
Okay.
Sid.
Fair enough. Everybody says that. Yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah.
And then that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we spoke yesterday. Well, you deserve to go back. You know, you did a fantastic job last time, and I'm rooting for you. Plus, I love you. But while you're waiting to do that, of course, you got the Monica Crowley podcast that you're still doing, as far as I know, twice a week, yes?
Yes, and thank you so much. You can find it streamed on Rumble at the Monica Crowley Podcast. So please go check it out there. We're also on Google, Apple, and Spotify, if that's where you get your podcast. I really appreciate it, Sid. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to have you back here today. Good luck with whatever you do, whether it's coming on this show, doing your podcast, going back to work for Trump, whatever it is, Monica Crowley, you're terrific, and we love you here. Thank you so much.
Right back at you, Sid.
All right, Monica Crowley right there. That was great. That actually lifted a lot of the confusion because, you know, I watch these things and I listen to Steve Moore and I listen to Larry Kudlow and I watched Wilbur Ross yesterday, but they talk to me on these shows like I'm an economic guy, like I'm a money guy. I'm a regular guy. Most of us, 98% of us, have no idea what they're talking about. And they don't get that. You know, we're watching football pregame shows. We're not watching Wilbur Ross. So they got to find a better way because the economy stuff is very confusing. And Monica, John Catsimatidis, these types of people do a very good job of making it understandable for morons like Lou. What?
Alec, where's my card, Alec? Do you have it? Did you? I left it in there. Did you take? I'm not an economics guy, but I don't know where my card is.